I am blessed with two beautiful baby boys who I am lucky enough to get to stay home with and enjoy every day with. But I also take some time to work at a local coffee shop every once in a while to enjoy the adult life as well. My name is Rianne, and I am a miraculous mama.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Miraculous Mamas podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much. I am your host, Elizabeth Joy, and we are so glad that you are listening. I have such an exciting episode for you. This is a podcast that believes in empowering women through storytelling and education, and I have two awesome guests today who are going to be sharing their stories with us. The first one is Shawn Johnson-East, who you guys know as an Olympic gold medalist. She's a gymnast. She was on Dancing with the Stars and she won because she's awesome. And she's expecting her first child, which is really exciting. And she's just so open with us and shares her story of pregnancy, miscarriage, and how she's so excited to meet her baby, and she's due any day now. So she's just such a joy to talk to, and I can't wait for you guys to hear from her. And then we haven't done a birth story from our group in a while. So I have Aubrey Jones on, who shares her birth stories with us of her two kids and how the stories were very different, but she also is so open with us and just shares her experiences. And I know that there's going to be something in this episode for everyone. If you guys are listening and you aren't subscribed to the podcast, click that subscribe button and share it with somebody who you know will love it. We want to reach as many people as we can. Our community of women is absolutely amazing and it continues to grow. If you're not a part of our Facebook group, you can join the Miraculous Mamas Facebook group where we just love on each other, give advice, ask questions, and just grow in community together. Also, make sure to follow the Miraculous Mamas Instagram page where I put up information about the guests that we have. And then we finally got a Miraculous Mamas Twitter account. I'm still figuring out how to work it. I really honestly don't understand Twitter, so I am trying. But we do have a Twitter account. I'm going to be tweeting out the different episodes and different articles that we find on Motherhood. So make sure that you follow us on all the different platforms. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on Shawn Johnson-East. All right, everyone. I am so excited about our guest today. I have Shawn Johnson-East on, and you guys know her as an Olympic gold medalist. But we're here to talk about being a woman and knowing when the time is right to have kids, growing a human inside of your body, and how to prepare for giving birth, which is a life-changing event. And you've had a few life-changing events before, so we're so excited that you're here to talk with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I would love for you just to kind of tell us a little bit about your journey of being in the Olympics and then meeting your husband and kind of getting to where you're at today.
So I competed in the 2008 Olympic Games. I then retired from gymnastics in 2012, where I was trying to make the London team, but ended up getting hurt. So I went to London. I met this USA athlete named Guy East. He was a cyclist, and we became really good friends, and he just couldn't stop talking about hooking me up with his younger brother. And so we came back to the United States. I met his younger brother, and 3 years later, we're married. So
wow. That is so cool. So it's crazy though, how you just meet one person and then they introduce you to the love of your life.
I know. I wish I could do that for someone. I've never been able to, but it was pretty successful, I guess, on his part.
Yeah. Did you guys date long distance then for a while?
We did this might sound crazy. So we went on our first date in September of 2012. And just kind of met. It wasn't anything formal. We went on our second, which was more our official date in June of 2013. And we did long distance until October. In October, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee.
Wow.
For Vanderbilt University, right. But it was for him.
Air quotes. That's what I do too. I'm I want to move to Chicago for myself, but you just happen to live there.
Yes.
Okay, so then 3 years later, you guys are married. And then how do you how did you know when you guys were ready to start having kids?
So I don't know. I don't feel like we ever felt ready. I feel like as soon as we got married, I kind of had the mentality, I was like, I'm ready to have a kid, but I was still not. And then I kind of got out of that phase. My husband got in that phase and I was like, I don't want kids now. And then we accidentally ended up pregnant.
Okay.
So yes, it was a surprise for both of us. And we ended up losing that pregnancy. That was my miscarriage. And it was after the miscarriage, we both just, excuse me, we both just kind of had like the switch flip. And I was like, it was a rude awakening of like, holy crap, we're going to have a kid. But all of a sudden it was like, we're ready to have a kid and like, we want nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So getting pregnant that first time then kind of mentally got you in that state.
It really did. And I don't know how, because I don't feel like you're ever ready to have a kid. Even now, like I'm getting ready to pop a kid out here any day. I don't feel ready. And I feel like everyone that I've ever met, besides those few that are they've just known since day one that they're ready for kids, I don't feel like you're ever totally ready, because you don't feel like you're financially there, or you have the home, or you have the like stability, or there's always some reason. Mm-hmm. It's just a daunting task to take on.
Yeah. Well, your life legit just completely changes. So your relationship with your husband as you know it is going to be completely different.
Yeah. I think that scares both of us more than anything. We both are like firm believers that the best way to raise a kid is to have the strongest relationship as a couple. Mm-hmm. And so we're nervous about making us a priority and being able to like keep that strong relationship in order to raise a kid. Which again, I've never raised a child, never raised a human being. So I don't know how that's going to go, but yeah, we're nervous about it. For sure.
So what are a few of the things that maybe you guys have talked about to mentally prepare yourselves?
I don't know if we're talking about any of the right things, but we're trying to talk about like how to make our relationship a priority and how to continue doing date nights and how to, let the kid fit into our life instead of our life fit into the kids, which is like advice we've been given by a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people have this mentality when they have a kid of like, our life is over because we now need to like just cater to them. For us, we see the other side where we want to like make sure we keep our life the same and try to like fit our kid into it, which is going to be difficult, but we're going to try.
Yeah. One of my really good friends, her sister had a few kids, and I was asking her because her kids, we were all out to dinner and they were so well behaved. I'm like, how are your kids so well behaved out to eat? And she's like, because we don't revolve our world around them. Like they had to learn how to fit into our environment. So they started going out to eat with us at a super young age, and they've learned how to behave at dinner, basically. Not that kids still won't have meltdowns, because it's going to happen. Yeah. But she was like, it was just really big for us to make sure that our kids became a part of our life, not us revolving our world around there. So I think that that's awesome advice.
Yeah, I love that. And we travel a ton, and everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people have been like, well, I think you'll probably have to stop traveling now. And our mentality is like, no, I think the kid will just travel with us, or we'll have to find a babysitter. But to us, it's kind of like, we have this lifestyle we love and we want our kid to be a part of it. We don't want to like quit everything and just stay at home with a kid.
Yeah. It'll be cool to see how that like grows and changes with adding a family to it.
Yes. I mean, I could be very humbled and all of this could be, go a completely different direction. So we'll find out.
Right. I mean, you never know. There's so much with recovery too, whereas you don't know how you're going to feel and how, you might need more time than maybe you mentally prepared for, or, there's a lot of different things with changing hormones in your body and a new baby and learning how to thrive in each other's environments, you know? But I think that there does come a phase though, where you do just kind of have to take the leap and be like, okay, we're going to take this trip. We're going to do this thing and figure it out, because that's what we have to do.
Yeah. We already have like a couple of trips planned, especially with the holidays coming up. And again, we've never had a kid. We don't know how it's going to go. We're going to have to fly to a couple places. And we're already just kind of like, well, we'll learn the hard way or the easy way, how it's going to go.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to go back to kind of around the time that you had your miscarriage, because you got pregnant pretty soon after, right? With this one?
A little over a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what was that, I guess, that year like, kind of preparing to be pregnant again after, you weren't really sure you were ready, and then you got pregnant and you're like, it kind of jolted you into that, like, okay, let's do this, then kind of recovering from a miscarriage and starting to plan to have a family again.
Yeah. So that was a hard experience. And I feel for anyone who ever has to go through that, because it's such an emotional roller coaster. I had gone through with gymnastics, injuries and just like failures and letdowns and stuff, but there's an emotional connection that you go through with a miscarriage that is so different. And as soon as we did miscarry, I went through that whole phase of, it was almost like a postpartum depression, because you have all these hormones leaving your body, which you have to deal with on top of the mental side of processing what it is you did just go through. And so I feel like with my husband, it was a year-long, not battle, but like back and forth of, as soon as I miscarried, I was like, I want to try again. Like, I want to still be pregnant. I want to do this. And my husband was kind of like, I think we need to take a break. I think we need to like heal from this and process everything. And then that kind of causes tension between a marriage. And then he would kind of get to a place where he's like, okay, we can start talking about it. And then I would get guarded and be like, well, I don't want to have to go through a miscarriage again, so I don't want to try, which causes tension. And it was just this year of like figuring out where we were and trying to get our relationship really strong again, so that we could try and be like successful parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really sounds like your guys' philosophy is that you are each other's number one, and like keeping that grounded will like help keep you grounded as parents.
It is. And again, I hope it stays that way, but I think that's what we both feel most confident with. And I feel like we're each other's support system and like number one teammates. And if we aren't on the same page, then how can we, raise a kid?
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, it is time for me to tell you about my favorite deodorant company, and that is Native. I've been using them for a few months now, and there are so many reasons why I love them. First of all, it's formulated without aluminum, parabens, or talc. It's filled with ingredients found in nature, such as coconut oil and shea butter, which helps moisturize, and tapioca starch, which absorbs the wetness. There's no animal testing. Plus, there's free shipping and returns. And it works. Making the switch to a natural deodorant can be really hard sometimes, because you might have to sacrifice on your odor, and I have definitely been there. But test it out and let me know how it works for you, because I've been using it, and seriously, like, I do not smell at the end of the day, which is not normal for me. And it does actually help absorb wetness. I absolutely love their products, and they have over 8,000 5-star reviews. So I'm definitely not the only one. And they're ingredients that and you can read the label on the back. It's simpler ingredients, so you know everything that's in your deodorant, what you're putting on your body, on your skin, which is your largest absorbing organ of your body. So it's so important to be aware of that. They have something for everyone. Native comes in a wide variety of enticing scents for men and women. Plus, they release new limited edition seasonal scents throughout the year. They also offer the unscented formula and baking soda-free formula for those who have sensitivities. My favorite one that I've been using lately is Lavender Rose. It's just a little bit floral, and I absolutely love anything rose scented right now. And Vito loves their deodorant as well. He's been using the charcoal one and loves it. Plus, they don't only have deodorant. Just go check out their website. They have such amazing products. And I know some of you people out there have smelly teenagers who are getting into that age of needing deodorant for the first time. And Native is just the perfect option for kids entering that puberty stage. And right now, I have an amazing discount for you guys. So for 20% off your first purchase, visit nativedeodorant.com and use promo code MIRACULOUS during checkout. That's 20% off your first purchase at nativedeodorant.com using promo code MIRACULOUS. Let me know what scent you try and how it works for you. So after conceiving this child that you're now carrying, you did have a scare. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So with the miscarriage, it was a humbling experience, I guess, because it's so common knowledge that like you get pregnant, you're pregnant for 9 months, you have a baby. And like, that's kind of this naive mentality that everyone has. They don't tell you that, you know, so many people might miscarry and you might have a hard time getting pregnant. And it's just, that was a learning experience in itself. And so we were humbled by that. So when we finally did get pregnant again, it was kind of like, oh, well, if we don't miscarry, we're going to have a baby and it's going to be healthy and it's going to be like everything. So we would go through these appointments, and we had one appointment where it was like our first ultrasound, and the doctor came back and said things looked just okay. I had a 2-vessel cord instead of a 3, which I knew nothing about. My husband knew nothing about, but the doctor made it sound like it was something to watch and be wary of. And then on top of that, there was the kidneys didn't look good, which could have meant like a genetic disorder, and oxygen supply could be compromised. And it was just a list of all these harsh realities of there's so much more to worry about than just getting pregnant and having the kid. Mm-hmm. It's just this vulnerable stage in your life where there's truly nothing you can do but pray and wait it out and deal with things as they come.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I know you guys kind of did the testing and ended up finding out everything's good. Your baby's healthy and fine.
Yes. So one by one, we ended up opting out of genetic testing at the beginning, just because to us, it didn't matter. We were having the baby no matter what. We were going to love the baby no matter what, but you still pray for the easiest, healthiest, happiest life for your kid. And so when we had to do the genetic testing, that makes you nervous just because it's foreign territory. You've never dealt with anything like this before. And when the genetic testing came back, clear, there was nothing on that. It was a celebration and kind of just a sigh of relief that that's one thing we could cross off. And now we just have to focus on the 2-vessel cord and the kidneys. And I had at one point extra amniotic fluid, which was another stressor in the pregnancy. It was all these different things. And slowly after every appointment, we got to cross one thing off and kind of take a breath of fresh air and be like, okay, I think things are looking good.
Mm-hmm. And you guys decided to wait to find out what you're having.
We did.
That's so exciting.
I was not on board with it from day one. We ended up getting the blood test done at 10 weeks to find out, or I did. And as soon as I got the results, my husband was just like, I want nothing more than to be surprised. And he voiced such a strong opinion. I was like, okay, fine. I'll give you this one. But I'm excited about it. I think it's fun now.
That's exactly how my husband feels too. He does not want to find out. And I kind of want to plan a little bit. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, maybe we'll keep the first one a surprise and see. So you didn't read the results, or you do know and he doesn't know?
I didn't read the results. I had the results sent to my best friend.
Oh my gosh.
And she hasn't opened it. And it was just kind of this back and forth. I wanted to kind of do that, the cliche gender reveal and everything. And when it got to the point where we had decided not to find out every kind of milestone, like the baby showers and everything, it became really fun because it's something you just get to hold on to like by yourself. And I don't know. I like it. I would really recommend it.
Yeah. Are you planning on, when you give birth, having your husband kind of see first?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something really special. Like, we've talked to a lot of friends of ours who haven't found out. And they said, you know, as a woman, you get to like bond with your baby for 9 months, and you get to go through this process that the husband doesn't, which makes them very lucky and also not. Mm-hmm. They don't have to go through all of it. But they said it's a really special moment for the husband or the dad to bond with the whole process of pregnancy, when they get to be a part of it and they get to tell you and they get to celebrate this moment. And I think that's really cool. I was like, absolutely. Like, C-section or not, whatever happens, I want my husband to be the one that tells me.
Yeah, that's really special.
Yeah.
So do you have kind of something set in your mind of how you want to go into it?
Into
birth.
Delivery?
Yes.
I've had so many people tell me that you need to go into it with a plan of like, you want this and not that. But I also am kind of the mentality, like, I have preferences, but at the end of the day, I really don't care, as long as whatever happens is in the best interest of our baby. Mm-hmm. So, you know, there's a lot of people who are adamantly against a C-section. And I'm like, well, I don't really care about my body as long as it's what's best for the baby. And if that's what we have to do to keep the baby safe and healthy, then that's what we'll do. So I would love to give birth naturally, which I might regret that. But if anything happens or we need to not do that, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you have a pretty high pain tolerance.
I think so. We'll find out. I used to as a kid. I don't know if I do anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a little bit different too when it comes to your child, right? Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, okay, you don't mind getting hurt, but if there's like a chance of your child getting hurt, you're going to do everything possible to protect them from that.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it kind of becomes that thing where it's like, I will take all the pain. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care, as long as our baby and our kid doesn't have to feel it. Mm-hmm.
So being, you know, you were in the Olympics at such a young age, and you have to be so mentally strong to do that and to be in such high competitive environments. How do you think kind of that mental strength has come into preparing to be a mom?
I feel like it's actually been a struggle, only because in gymnastics and as such a young kid, the only way you can kind of digest the Olympics and be successful at the Olympics as a 16-year-old kid is to not feel anything. You kind of shut yourself off from the entire world and go numb. And so even when I was at the Olympics and competing, I wasn't actually digesting that I was at the Olympics. It was just another day. And it wasn't until like years later, now that I'm 27, I'm like, wow, I competed at the Olympic Games, and I don't know how I ever did that. So with pregnancy and a kid, it's been a little bit harder because I can so easily just shut the world off and not feel emotion and not, you know, connect and bond with the baby. Like, I could do that if I needed, but I've actively tried not to, just because it is such a time in your life where you should feel and you should experience and digest everything that's going on, which has been a struggle because, like, right after the miscarriage, my natural instinct was to be like, I'm good. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just move on. And my husband and I really had to work on like, no, you need to cry. You need to feel it. You need to like understand what's going on. So with the pregnancy, I don't know how I'm going to handle it, since I don't want to allow myself to get to that kind of like numb point. Mm-hmm. Might be a lot harder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to be doing something that you've never done before.
Yeah, that intimidates me.
But it's going to be so rewarding.
I was like asking my doctor, I'm like, okay, I've dealt with broken bones, torn ligaments. Like, what pain can I compare this to? And she's like, there's really nothing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
I
boy.
mean, it'll be a new challenge, but with a completely different reward, but like the ultimate reward that you could get.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so exciting. So how do you think you've dealt with like your body changing then? Because you're such an athletic person and your body's changing so much, growing a human. Has that been a struggle for you at all?
I was really afraid that it was going to be. So back in gymnastics, I dealt with body image issues, and every girl goes through just the self-confidence issues and just all of it, and especially on such a magnified stage. So going into pregnancy with the knowledge of like, you're going to gain weight and you're going to like not be able to be as active, I was really nervous that all of that would come back. But I've been really pleasantly surprised that it was kind of, again, like a switch flipped the day I got pregnant. And it was kind of like, I don't care what happens to my body because it's not my body anymore. Like, it's being used for someone else. And so like the weight gain, the, dietary restrictions, craving sugar and letting yourself go a little bit, and just like all of it, it hasn't bothered me because it's not my body at the moment. Like, when I get my body back, I'm sure I'm going to have a little struggle of like, okay, now the baby's not there, so we got to put this back together. But it's been a really cool experience because I haven't felt any of it.
Yeah, that is really cool. And I mean, you look amazing, and you definitely have the pregnancy glow going on.
Oh, thank you.
You do. You're like glowing. I was stalking your Instagram before the interview, and I was like, oh my gosh, she just looks so blissful
all the time. Yes.
Have you been like hot throughout this pregnancy?
Actually, I know I said that it was probably sweat, but I usually run really warm, like by nature, my whole life. I'm a sweater. And then as soon as I got pregnant, I was freezing cold up until like these last few weeks, and I've been hot. But I've been really lucky. We've gone through a brutal summer, and I've just been cold, which nice. I can't complain.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a video that you and your husband did about push presents for mom and dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you getting him a push present?
I'm calling it a catch present.
Okay. I like that idea.
Yes. But yes, I wanted to get him something just because, again, it's such a weird thing for a guy to go through for the 9 months, because it's so hard for the woman. And I can't, like, we all know when, your husband gets sick and he starts to complain about something, you're just like, oh, whatever, just toughen it out. I can't imagine what he's had to go through for 9 months, just truly not being able to understand because they don't have anything to compare it to. And he's been amazing. He's been so supportive and so sweet and listens to me vent all the time and massages my feet. And so I wanted to get him something just to say like, thank you.
You seem so compassionate toward him, which is nice because I feel like you hear the opposite a lot. Like in the movies, they're like, you did this to me, Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But he's been awesome. And I've been very lucky that he's been so great through it all.
That is nice. You guys are going to be such awesome parents. And I'm just so excited for you guys to welcome.
Thank you.
And I mean, you're due any day, basically.
I know. I mean, hopefully it's today. I would not mind.
Are you like ready? You're like, I'm ready.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You get to a point where like, I really don't think pregnancy is bad. Like, you have aches and pains and it's uncomfortable and you can't really touch your toes or do anything. But it's not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. And so if I'm pregnant for another 4 weeks, that's fine. But I'm ready to meet our baby and ready to not be pregnant.
Yeah, just the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So what else? I mean, are you a preparer? So have you been is the room completely done? Is all the ducks in a row? Or are you kind of like winging it?
I am a control freak planner. So this has been really interesting because I don't know when the day is, and all of it. The nursery is pretty much done, except for we don't have anything on the walls. We don't have like detail decorations because I want to wait to find out the gender. But other than that, I made sure by October 1st, like our bags are packed, the car seat was in the car, like all of that. So we're prepared as much as possible, but I still feel like it's the weirdest feeling being a control freak because I'm like, is it going to happen now or now? And it's just every day, all day, all night. I'm like, wait, is this a contraction? Wait, is that it's just overwhelming.
Yeah. Have you felt like Braxton Hicks or anything like that?
I have. So I didn't really know what it was up until probably a week or two ago. My doctor explained it in a way that I was like, oh, that makes sense. But they've definitely gone up a notch this past week. Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, there are some ways to help naturally induce labor. And yes. One of them is eating dates. If you eat like 5 dates a day, put them in smoothies or eat them, red raspberry leaf tea, and sex. So those are ways to...
I've also heard eating pineapple because of the bromelain, primrose oil, taking that every day. Yeah, I'm getting ready to start all of it.
All of it all at once and see what happens. Yeah. That's so exciting. So since you didn't find the gender out yet, and you don't have to share with us, but do you have an inkling of what it is?
I do, and I'm fine sharing. I think it's a boy, but I honestly have no idea why I think it's a boy. Mm-hmm. I haven't had dreams that it's a boy. I think I just flipped a coin in my head. It was like, boy.
It's a boy.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask is, have you had any weird pregnancy dreams at all?
The only one that was super weird. I don't know if it's going to make me sound like a bad mom potentially. So you know the show Modern Family?
Yes.
You know the Hispanic kid?
Yes.
Okay. I dreamt that I gave birth to him. Full size, everything. And the next day, it was his first day at kindergarten. And so I had to drive him to kindergarten. Oh, and I gave him a sippy cup filled with a cocktail.
Oh my
because
God.
That's what he needed. But I told him that if anyone asked, he needed to tell them it was a smoothie. And that was the dream.
That was the weird pregnancy dream. Yeah, you're going to be awesome at this.
I was like, that's everything good about being a mom right there.
That's so funny. Yeah, you hear stories of people having weird dreams leading up to it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
How do you feel like maybe your husband's been preparing for this?
He's like a book reader. So he'll ask a bunch of people their opinions and their advice, but he's read every book out there. He's been researching the facts and statistics, and he's a numbers guy. So he's just been preparing that way.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah. I'm not a reader, so it's great because he'll tell me all these facts of, oh, you should be doing this, and this is normal and this isn't. And yeah, he's been doing his research.
You're like, perfect. Just tell me what I need to know.
Exactly.
That is nice. That's super nice. Yeah. So has there been anything during your pregnancy that you can't live without?
I take, which has been hard, I take a lot of baths, but I'm one of those girls that likes a scalding hot bath. And of course, you're not supposed to take hot baths when you're pregnant. So I've been taking these lukewarm, gross baths all the time. But it's the only thing that gives my back and my hips any ease at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently learned that giving yourself jaw massages and relaxing your jaw really helps also relax your hips.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to start doing that.
Yeah, I was watching some videos the other day. Well, because as I work as a birth doula, so one thing that I always remind people during labor is when the contractions are coming and you're super tensed up, I'm always like, relax your jaw, relax your shoulders, because it helps relax your hips. But I didn't know about the massage thing. So giving yourself jaw massages helps relax your hips as well.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty.
You're a birth doula? You're totally ready for a kid then.
That's though my sister was telling me though. She's like, you're like, you know all this stuff, but you're going to be that person that gets pregnant and is like, this sucks. This is like, you know, that's just like in birth being like, I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, because like you have all this information and you picture it being like, okay, I know all this stuff, so it shouldn't be too hard for me. And then I'm going to be like, yeah, no. Yeah.
I would be the same way.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I do feel prepared, I think physically, just because I've studied so much on like what your body's doing. So I feel like if I know what my body's doing, then it's easier for me to accept and let it happen.
Same. Yeah. I'm the person that I want like midwives and doctors to tell me everything. Like, this is normal, this is not, like everything, because then I can process it more. Right.
Yeah. I think the more aware you are, then the more you feel like informed and you can either help make decisions or, I don't know, just especially if you're a control freak, like feeling like you have some sort of control or like options during it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. No, you're going to be awesome at it though. Like,
thank you.
You've gone through so much and you've conquered so much. So this is just like the next thing. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, I conquered that.
Thank you. I'm ready. Yeah. I'm ready to be over the hump. So
the hump and the bump.
Yes. Yes.
That's so exciting. So how do you feel about if you have a baby on Halloween?
Fine. It very likely could happen because my like official due date now is the 29th. But who knows? I would probably prefer not a Halloween baby. I don't like the sharing of holidays stuff, but whatever. It would make for some fun birthday parties later on.
Do you watch Parks and Recreation at all?
I do not.
Oh, man. I love that show, but there's a girl there who goes into labor on Halloween, and it's just...
Oh, really?
It's funny, yeah.
I'll have to Google the episode.
Yes. To say when April goes into labor.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel the same. I feel like I always feel bad for the kid who has to share their birthday with... I have a nephew who's born on Christmas, so...
Oh, yeah.
It's like, we need to celebrate the half birthday.
I have a niece that she's not born yet, but her due date is Christmas. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But statistically speaking, Christmas is the day with the least amount of birthdays.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because I think if somebody has to get induced or schedule a C-section or anything, they're not going to schedule it for Christmas.
True.
So it kind of eliminates all those. And I bet if somebody does go into labor, they're probably like, no, I can wait. I'll labor at home for a while.
They just mentally are just not there yet.
Right. They're like, no, not today. But yeah, it's statistically the day with the least amount of birthdays. So the likelihood of your niece being born on that day is pretty slim.
Huh. I'll have to let her know.
But watch her be born on that day.
Yeah. She'll be the one of few.
Yeah. That's super exciting. Well, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing with us. I know a lot of our listeners know who you are and follow you already. When I told my husband who was coming on, he's like, oh my gosh, all my friends and I crushed on her so hard in high school. Oh. And then he gets embarrassed when I say stuff like that. But if people want to follow your journey, where can they find you at?
We post all of our family content on YouTube, which is the East Fam or the East Family, and social media. I'm just Shawn Johnson. So.
And if you guys don't follow their YouTube channel, it's pretty funny. You guys, I didn't realize how funny you guys are. You guys have some really funny videos on there. You keep it real, which is awesome. And you share a lot about your guys' life, which is really cool. So definitely follow their YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Yeah. And good luck with everything. We can't wait to hear how the birth goes and to catch up with you later.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
You're
Thanks for having me.
welcome. Bye.
Bye.
I seriously cannot wait for her to have her baby. I'm excited to find out what she's having. So that's really, really cool. She's just such a delight and so easygoing and fun to talk to. And I know she and her husband are just going to be amazing parents. I'm going to go ahead and get Aubrey on to share her birth stories with us. And like I said before, she has two very different stories, and I know so many of you mamas out there can relate to one of them, if not both of them. But she is just an awesome mama who is willing to come on and share her journey with us. And I apologize, my audio is not that great on this birth story. I mean, it's not bad, but her audio is great. So if there's parts I know where maybe I sound a little bit quiet, and I apologize for that. But tune in. It's an awesome, awesome story.
I'm super excited. I have Aubrey Jones here. She's a part of our Miraculous Mamas Facebook group, and she's agreed to come on and share her birth stories with us.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And so you have two very different birth stories, kind of a traumatic one and then a not so traumatic one.
Yes. Very, very different.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to hear. Let's start with the first one. Okay.
So my first child, Madison, she is now 3.5. I had the ideal pregnancy with her.
Nice.
I definitely dealt with a lot of anxiety during that pregnancy, just being a new mom, a first-time mom, never being pregnant before. I didn't know what to expect. And so I enlisted the help of a doula, and I'm so thankful that I did. And so one day, Madison's due date was in February, and she actually came 2 weeks early.
Mm.
And so obviously that was a big surprise. My water broke, and immediately I panicked. My husband was an hour away working in Denver. And so I had to call him and tell him to come home. So by the time he got home, my contractions had really started. And I had originally planned to labor at home as long as I possibly could and then go to the hospital. But by the time he got home, I couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. So we went straight to the hospital. And it kind of just started out as a bad experience from the very beginning. I told the triage nurse that my water had broke, and she basically told me that no, it hadn't. I probably had just peed myself.
Oh.
Yeah. And so then she started doing the cervical exam, and she couldn't, because my contractions were coming so quick that she actually couldn't tell how dilated I was. So they admitted me right away. And my doula got there shortly after. And I had actually planned to do a natural labor and delivery. But the contractions were so difficult that I requested to have an epidural. Mm-hmm. And the epidural went great. And then my doula was in the room with us, and she started noticing that our little one's heart rate was dropping. And it was happening at every contraction. And so she was watching it. She brought it to my attention. I, of course, panic as a first-time mom.
Yeah.
And, she was great. She's telling me, don't even worry about it. And then she goes and tells the nursing staff, and they come in, and that's kind of when things got a little more eventful.
Was when you were on, when you got the epidural, did they put you on Pitocin to continue the labor, or was your labor going strong enough that they didn't?
They did not have to put me on Pitocin. It was going strong enough already. Mm-hmm. Which that was one thing I was a little bit nervous about with potentially getting an epidural and eventually getting it. So her heart rate was dropping a lot, and the nursing staff came in, and this was also a teaching hospital. So like 8 nursing staff come in, students. And then they call the doctor in, and the doctor was great. He was very calm. The nursing staff were a little more panicked. We had to actually roll me over onto, I think it was my left side. And that's when we noticed that her heart rate stayed steady. So the issue was that her heart rate wasn't recovering quickly enough after each contraction. So they put one of those head heart rate monitors on.
Yeah.
So then of course my epidural only worked on one side of my body. And when it came time to start pushing, the nursing staff just started telling me, I'm trying to focus on pushing. My doula's holding one leg, my husband's holding the other leg. And all I hear is the nursing staff, you have to get this baby out. You have to get this baby out right now. And they're counting, and everyone was basically yelling, at least in my memory, this is how it took place. And there's a bunch of people in there yelling basically that I have to get this baby out for her safety. And so at that point, I'm just sobbing, trying to push this baby out because I didn't know what was going to happen or what was going on. And the heart rate continued to drop. It got really, really low. And all I could think was, oh my gosh, I'm going to deliver this baby and I'm not even going to get to know her. And, for us, that thankfully wasn't the case. And I pushed her out, and immediately she came out and she turned blue. They didn't suction her out well enough, I guess. So I was trying to breastfeed her, and she just turns just this terrifying bluish purple color. And the nurses just rip her off of me and start suctioning her. And luckily she recovered and everything was fine, but it was a really terrifying experience, especially for a first time mom. And I was just, again, so thankful that I had a doula there who noticed this heart rate issue before the physician and nursing staff even did. And she had also just helped me stay as calm as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it can be so traumatizing when people are yelling at you too, and it's hard when you may not know necessarily what's going on, but these people are yelling at you. And it's like, okay, if I understand what's happening more, if I had time to process it, then it might not be as scary, but you have no time in that moment to process what's happening.
Exactly. I mean, I was just trying to get my body to get this baby out as best as I could, and listening to people scream at me that I have to get this baby out for her own safety was just terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. So then what happened with your second?
Yeah. So our second baby, little Simon, he just turned 1.
Oh, how fun.
He was actually born in the second year of my PhD program.
Mm.
And so I was pregnant the whole second year, trying to start my dissertation. And I actually went into preterm labor with him. I went to a meeting one morning and I felt so sick. Actually, the same way I felt the day my daughter was born. And I was having irregular contractions. So I went to labor and delivery just to be safe. And they admitted me for 4 days.
Oh, wow.
And put me on some medication to get to keep him in there. If he had been born early, he would have been born at 33 weeks.
Mm.
And so really our goal was to just get me to 35 weeks. So I was able to actually go to 37 weeks with him. Which was really wonderful. And I woke up in the middle of the night just with this weird, I don't know, it didn't even feel like normal contractions, or at least what I had experienced with my daughter. And we got to the hospital and I was already 5 centimeters dilated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And really hadn't experienced that much pain in comparison to the first.
Mm.
And I already knew, and I just asked for the epidural. I didn't want to experience that pain again. And I ended up taking a nap. Mm-hmm. Like I've always heard of women doing this, but I thought they were just making things up. I don't know. But I actually took a nap, and I woke up to my water breaking, and the doctor came in and said, all right, well, it's probably time to start pushing. So I was in labor with him for 6 hours. And my husband had been joking with the staff that we were going to have this baby and he was going to go home and take our older daughter to preschool that day. And they kept telling him, don't get your hopes up. These things don't go that quickly. But he was born really quickly, and it was just my husband, one nurse, and the doctor. And the nurse was so fantastic. She had been one of the nurses who took care of me during my preterm labor stay.
Oh, nice.
And remembered me and was just so helpful. And the doctor wasn't even my original physician. She was the on-call doctor, and she was the most supportive doctor I've ever had. And afterwards, you know, they hand you your baby and you start crying. And she was almost crying too, and was just talking to me after about, you know, how great of a job I did and how I listened to my body. And they felt like, you know, I just kind of controlled that birth. And it was completely opposite of the first one where people were questioning if I had even experienced what I said I had experienced with the water breaking. And these were at 2 different hospitals, 2 different states, actually. So his labor took me 6 hours, and our first was 9 hours, but just so completely different.
Yeah. I mean, even for a first time labor, that's really, really quick. Yeah. But it makes such a difference when you have supportive healthcare providers. It makes such a different experience for the moms. Absolutely. I think, I don't know, the first doctor was a male, and he was great. He stayed very calm, but, you know, I felt throughout that whole first birth that everyone was questioning me as a woman and my ability to do this, or no, your water didn't actually break. Whereas my second birth, I came in and they just, it felt like they just trusted me right away. Right. When you're like, I'm in labor, they're like, okay. Yeah, you are in labor. You're right. Yeah. So that was it was so much better. And when I told them like, hey, I have to push, they were like, all right, let's do this. Let's get this baby. Yeah. So, I mean, I hope that every mom can have that second experience that I had, because I think it really affected my postpartum experiences also. With the first, I definitely struggled with postpartum depression, and so much anxiety that I think stemmed from people yelling at me to get this baby out. And then the second time it was just very calm and like, okay, I have this baby and everything's fine and it's going to be okay. Yeah. So Simon's birth was kind of a redemptive healing birth from that first experience. Absolutely. I didn't even want to have a second baby after the first experience, because it was just, for me, it was so scary. And I was so hesitant, and my husband desperately wanted a second baby. Yeah. And so, we talked about it in great depth before we went through with it. And I'm so glad we did. And it really was redemptive. Yeah. Yeah. That's so amazing. I just feel like when you have supportive people, because even in like a traumatic circumstance, just the tone of people and the support makes such a difference. If it was just said a little bit different way, or you just felt more supportive in that moment, it wouldn't have felt as traumatizing, or that you had no control and nobody trusted your body to do what it was supposed to. Absolutely. That control, that's exactly, it felt like I had absolutely no control over what was going on, as opposed to the second time, it felt like they 100% just let me be in control of that moment. Yeah. And it's awesome that, the second time that your epidural worked and you were able to get some rest. Well, because a lot of times if it does happen in the middle of the night, so many people, they go without sleep then, because labor can be so long. And more statistics show women go into labor like overnight or in the middle of the night. And it's like, okay, so if you don't get a good night's sleep or you don't get that. And then you labor and then you have this baby and, once you have this baby, you're not sleeping. So
Not sleeping.
as much rest as you can until that baby comes out.
Yes. And our second baby, he slept all the time.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. It was so weird. Our first baby, we didn't sleep for the first 48 hours of her life. The nurses would come in and they would say, has she still not gone to sleep yet? I'm like, no, can you take her so I can get sleep? And they were just like, no, we don't really do that here.
You're like, mama needs a nap.
Yeah, mom is tired.
Yeah. And that's awesome that Simon slept too. I mean, maybe that was part of it too. I mean, he came into a calm environment and more of a relaxing environment. And she came into a more high energy and alert environment. So she was probably had adrenaline going too.
Right.
Whereas Simon was just chill.
She's still a very high energy child.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he's very chill.
Yeah. That's so fun though.
Yeah, it is.
That's amazing that you did this all while you were getting your PhD too.
Right. And it actually triggered what I'm interested in studying. So prior to getting the PhD, I thought I would study juvenile justice. And then after having my first child, I had my first child and then started my PhD 6 months later. Mm-hmm. And so my application, I had indicated juvenile justice. And once I entered the program, I said, no, I'm interested in studying maternal health.
That's awesome.
And so that's what the focus of my PhD has been on because of those experiences, or that experience in particular.
Right. Well, and because you experienced both, as crappy as maybe the first one was, since you had that experience, then you're going to be able to help so many other women who have had that, because then you had the opposite experience. You're like, I know what it can be like.
Yes.
But I have the experience of what maybe it shouldn't be like sometimes. Obviously there are emergency cases and life or death situations. And, in those moments, you are super thankful for somebody being like, okay, you have to get her out right now, but you do see that a lot in situations where it's like, yeah, maybe the baby's heart rate might be dipping, but she's going to be okay. We just need to work on breathing well and getting her out as best as we can,
Exactly.
So since you experience both, you're going to be able to help women so much more.
Exactly. And I think with Madison's birth, it wouldn't have been as traumatizing to me had they just said something like, listen, get her out, or we're going to do a C-section to get her out. She's going to be fine. Instead, they made it sound like this baby was going to be born asleep, basically. And that's what I thought, because no one was explaining to me what was going on. Mm-hmm. Except my doula, who was trying the best she could to tell me it's going to be okay.
Right.
With all these people screaming at me.
Yeah, that's really hard. That's awesome that you had her there though too, to have just that added support in that crazy experience.
Yes, I'm a big advocate for support during labor, perinatal support, postpartum support. If you can afford it, I 100% recommend a doula.
Yeah. Well, and I also know a lot of places too, even if now some insurance companies are covering it, which is awesome.
Oh, that's great.
And I know other places that charge on a sliding scale, so income based. So even if you feel like you can't afford it, just even reach out and be like, hey, listen, this is my situation. Do you know any doulas that work with somebody who, maybe doesn't make as much money or really wants one, but doesn't know if we can afford it? Because there's usually always people in the community that you can find. Because I recently just had a similar situation, and I know that there's doulas in my area that do that. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, you can always find some sort of support. But that's awesome, Aubrey. I'm so glad that you came on and shared your story, because I know a lot of women can probably relate, especially to your first one, but then hearing that it can be different. It might give some people that encouragement that, hey, maybe if you do this again, it doesn't have to be as traumatic.
Yes. Yeah. And I think too, the second time around for me, I was much more confident as a mom.
Yeah.
And I already knew how crappy it could be. And so I think I also knew, okay, these are the questions I need to ask my potential provider to try to take control of that second situation. I know so much of it you can't always control, but I do think some of it was me being a lot more confident as a mom and knowing what to tell my providers and what not to tell them, I guess, and how I needed to have a birth experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, of course.
I am so grateful for the women who are willing to share and come on, and just also the women in the community who share openly there in our first Facebook group or in comments on Instagram or write in. It's just, that's a part of healing and growing and being in community, is sharing your story and allowing others to feel less alone. So I'm just so grateful for people like Aubrey and for Shawn for coming on and just sharing their journeys and being so open with us. We look forward to Shawn having her baby, and yeah, I'm just so grateful that she came on and that Aubrey shared her story as well. Again, if you guys are not following us on Instagram, go there, follow us. I'm always putting up different tips in the stories and just different things like that. There's information on the guests there. The Twitter account, I'll be tweeting out the episodes and any relevant news articles or motherhood stuff that I find on there. I'll also be tweeting out. And then our Miraculous Mamas Facebook page, where we just all hang out and we're in community together. And if you are longing for that, join us there. It's an awesome, awesome group of women. So yes, just join us a part of that community. I cannot say enough about these women. They're just so, so amazing. I'm super excited about our episode next week. October is National Bullying Prevention Month. And we know that is such a growing issue in the United States right now. Bullying has been escalating due to like social media and different things like that. So I'm bringing on an amazing guest, Katie, and she's going to be talking with us about the work that she is doing and how she started the Girl Talk Empowerment, and she talks about anti-bullying, but also just about empowering girls in their teens before they even become women, and changing the conversations then, and learning to be kind, because you never know what battle somebody is facing, whether it's their home life or a traumatic past. And she's so awesome. Her story is incredible, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear from her. So we will talk to you next week. Have a wonderful week. I hope you guys are enjoying some nice fall weather. Bye. This podcast is brought to you by Wave Podcast Network. Check out all of our shows, including the Brain Candy Podcast, I Don't Get It, Coffee Convos, and Let's Talk About It.